So I'm excited because our stream today is going to be about how you actually did a front end feature without knowing any front end yourself. So look at you providing value to the team.
The
Yeah.
other trick I learned from my teammate was Goose has a GitHub toolkit.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I just asked, hey, use the GitHub toolkit, look at this PR, and I posted
Yeah.
the entire link and said, just fix the comments as you see fit. And it just did that. And so
That is
that felt
brilliant.
weird. That felt weird because at this point I'm not doing any software engineering or any coding.
Just like moderating and like delegating.
And that was the proof. I needed to just send the pull request to the reviewing team. I don't think it took more than 2 or 3 iterations.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Wild's Goose Case. I am Ebony Lewis, a developer advocate at Block, and I'm here with my co-host.
Adewale, and I'm also a developer advocate at Block. Hello, everyone.
Hey. And today we have a special guest, Arjan. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Hey, Arjan.
Hi, I'm Arjan. I work on the automation, AI, and ML team at Block. Nice to have. It's nice to see you.
Thank you for joining us, Arjan. Welcome, everyone, once again. As you all know, this is the second episode of the Wild Goose Case, an amazing show, if I must say by ourselves, that covers interesting use cases that people use Goose for an AI agent, your own very personal, on-machine, on-device developer agent that automates engineering tasks for you to do amazing things, which is one of the things that we're also exploring on these streams, finding out how different people in different fields, different areas are making use of these tools to do amazing stuff. So today we have Arjan joining us, and we can't wait to hear about all the exciting things that is also used Goose for.
Yes. So before we dive in, Arjan, I'd love to know a little bit more about you and like how long you've been at Block and just a little bit of background on you. If
Sure.
AI is your first time hearing about AI, using AI, things like that.
Sure. I've been at Block for about 2.5 years. And I've been a backend engineer all my career. I've done some iOS and Android, but I've never done any front end. And my current team is mostly machine learning engineers and ML modelers. We have no front end engineers. Yeah.
Nice. Welcome. So I'm excited because our stream today is going to be about how you actually did a front end feature without knowing any front end yourself. So look at you providing value to the team.
That's right. Yeah. And I can speak more to it. Our project needed a new front end feature, and it was in a repo that we don't own. Our team doesn't work in. And like I said, because we didn't want to wait for a front end engineer, we kind of tried this out. It was just experimenting, but it actually just worked out in an afternoon.
Those are kind of like the best experiments where you're like, this might be a good idea. And then you jump into it and then, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. This was my first time using Goose. So it was definitely in the experimentation time. I've used it much more and I can kind of use it a little better.
Nice.
But even that first time, it worked pretty well. Yeah.
Awesome.
I love that. I also, before we like dive too much in, I feel like maybe not everyone in the audience will know what AI agents are before we get too much in the weeds of like Goose and showcasing your use case. So I've been trying to like perfect how I'm going to talk about what AI agents are. And I think like most people, when I talk about it, they seem to gather it a little better when I compare it to like AI versus like an AI agent, like what is the core difference there? And when it comes to like AI, that's where we'll talk about like large language models like ChatGPT, which people know of, or Gemini, etc. Those are more like a conversation. It's more like an email or text messaging back and forth. Or even for developers, it's like rubber ducking, right? Like you're saying, like, I want to figure out how to do this. And you'll chat with your AI, your LLM, and it'll tell you like, these are the steps of what you can do. And then with an AI agent, it uses an LLM, but the cool part is that it'll go and do it for you. So it'll still be a little rubber ducking, like, hey, I'd love to, this is my objective, this is my goal. but it'll take it a step further and be like, okay, this is what we can do. And then I'm going to go do it. Like, are you okay with me taking over and handling it? And that's the cool part. And I think that's why there's so much buzz around AI agents, is that it's able to do the task for you while you're able to do other things. So it frees you up. And then even like in Arjan's use case, he doesn't know anything about front-end code and it was able to do it for him, obviously with like some supervision and human interaction. But it's just really cool. So hopefully that was a good explanation for everyone in the audience. If you do want more clarification or a different explanation, Ace, if you want to hop in, you can.
Yeah, that sounded pretty good. I also just want to say hi to everyone in chat. Hello, Rizal. How you doing? Hello, Chris. Welcome and thank you for joining us. And of
Chris,
course, ING. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, hi, Tanya. Welcome everybody in chat. It's really nice to have you guys here. And yes, thank you, Rizal. So I guess we might as well just jump into right now, figure out Arjan's entire journey into trying Goose for the first time, and then also like being successful in this experiment that's in an area that he wasn't very comfortable with. Take it away.
Do it.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, we were trying to make a front-end change. This is a TypeScript repo. It's fairly large. And it does have some instructions in the README about how to install Node, how to install services, and so on. But there was too much information for start. So it would have taken me a few days to understand the repo, maybe also a few days to get started with front end and play around and so on. But that's where Goose helped me. So our goal was to emit metrics when certain buttons are clicked in this UI. This is an internal tool, a web page that we use, and we didn't have any analytics, which was critical to our project. So the front-end team told us about the metrics framework that was already integrated, and they gave us a couple of hints or a couple of example files, and that's what I took and pasted to Goose, and then I tried to see where it goes from there. So yeah,
Nice.
what I didn't know was how to set up the environment, how to do testing, which code files to change, how to verify the changes after the AI has assisted me, and so on. But that's what we can see in our demo now.
Let's do it. Let's hop into the demo.
Yeah, so this is a screen recording of the actual Goose session. And I'll play the video and talk over it. So this is my IDE, and I've opened it. In my repo is open here, and this is my terminal in the IDE where I've started the Goose session right over here, and this is the first prompt I gave it. I want you to add CDP tracking to compliance tag buttons. You may find the compliance tag components in this so-and-so folder. The CDP tracking is exposed in this file, and you may use these packages for examples. And then I say, try to use all the properties in the event. And when you're done, you can maybe start the UI like localhost. And that's where it starts. So we can see it first kind of makes a small plan and just reconfirms what you're trying to get it done. It's looking at the files, looking at how the stuff is implemented. It's going to add the code and the tracking, and then it's going to test the changes. And this is now how it probably talks to the LLM and tries to get that. And like Ebony was talking about, this is an agent. So it is doing the file searching for you over here. It is now spitting out those the contents of certain files that it thinks are necessary and so on, and it's going to use that. So it's no longer me opening the code and pasting it to ChatGPT and so on, because now it can kind of do that intelligently. So it knows now what to do.
Oh, sorry. I was just I thought you were pausing there, but before we go forward, I was gonna ask like, from your experience, like this is the first time you're using Goose as well, but I'm sure you've used like other LLMs in the past. Of course, you work in machine learning. I was very curious about your approach towards drafting a detailed prompt, to be able to, because natural language processing is like an amazing thing where you can say the same thing in different ways. And the LLM and the agent is able to understand and process it. And I just wanted to like get an insight also into your own approach into like writing this prompt and being able to
Sure.
express what you want to achieve as much as
Absolutely.
possible to the agent.
Yeah, definitely. I think prompts are very important. I have used ChatGPT and other AI tools. And similar to that, it's kind of in the same lines. The more data you give it or the more context you give it, it'll just be better. So as you saw, I gave it some starting code files to look at. But this is not what I would do in ChatGPT. I would have to paste code.
Mhm.
So it was my
Yeah.
first time, but the little context that I knew was, hey, you can give it, it has access to your file system. So you can just point it to certain files. And that's the main advantage, I would say. And I think you just have to experiment and play around with it. You'll just keep getting better because you'll see, oh, it didn't know about this, so I should have put that in my prompt. So
Right.
it's just getting started anywhere, anyhow. And it is talking to you. It's an agent. So when it doesn't know something, then you will also, humans are finally learning. Humans will learn and also try to follow that.
That makes sense.
Great question.
This is where it is now looking at those files and it sees now I know where to add the tracking and it should be done over here. So now what I do is I got this trick from a teammate is I open source control view in my IDE. So it's doing this job. So when you see this, it's saying it's changing this code to this code. And I'm kind of visualizing it. It's hard to visualize in the terminal itself, but I'm visualizing it in like a diff kind of way.
In real time.
And that
right?
helps me. Yeah.
You taught
That
me
is
something.
dope.
That's smart.
Yes, and it's not that I'm making any changes. In fact, I don't want to like touch this the code while it's doing it because then it doesn't know what I've changed.
Yeah.
But that's it's just visually that was I think one of the barriers when I first saw or tried to use Goose months before this example was it just dropped me in a terminal and I was like, okay, I don't see the code, it's doing something. And so it was unsettling for me as an engineer.
It's a lot of
Right.
trust you're giving it. That's
And now we see that it's done, it's made some changes, and automatically it's saying it's going to validate the changes by running linting and tests. So I will say that I'm not sure I added that in the prompt, but this repo does have a Goose hints file. Probably others have worked on this. And that is sort of like a little bit of a recipe or directions. So instead of all the engineers writing the same prompt saying, hey, you need to run tests and linting, and this is how you run the linting, look at the README or look at these config files for that, you can kind of put that in Goose Hint so that all Goose sessions have that context. Again, it's not required. It might have not done this, and I might have added to prompt it, hey, can you run the tests? Can you figure it out? Look at the README or look at some test files. It would have figured it out, but starting in a new session, instead of me having to repeat that, I can put that repeatable information in Goose Hints. So that's probably why it is starting this linting. And this is exactly one example where I don't know how to, add run linting. I don't know how to, I didn't even install any dependencies. It's going to do it for me. And dependencies and adding configurations and setup is kind of the time-consuming part in many cases. Most software engineers, they're not spending 100% of the time typing code. They're like dealing with all of these issues, debugging. And so that's where this also excels, because it can run some of this, and then it'll see the output. It'll see what failed or what crashed, and then it'll like keep trying to iterate on that. It will give up at some point after a few tries and say, hey, I don't know how to do it. Can you try these other things? But it's good that at least it has some of that baked in. So here what it did was it ran linting, it saw some issues, so it knows, because the linter tells you what the issues are, it'll then fix those issues, and it's running linter again. So this is great. Right now I'm observing it, but you can imagine that I could have just gone out for lunch and come back to a complete code.
Totally.
That would be the
And I
goal.
think now it's running tests.
Nice.
That is so cool.
It really-
So yeah, see, it says npm run.
Mhm.
I didn't install anything. I think it probably just figured it out itself. And I'd asked it to like start the UI, so it's like trying to do something now. Okay, so this is the Goose prompt, and after 3.5 minutes, this is the first time it stopped because it's done with some things, and it's told you what it did,
Yeah.
and it's having some dev server issues, and it's giving me some pointers to try and test that. And this is really a neat trick of like adding the numbers so that I don't have to type it out. I just have to
Mhm.
put in the numbers saying I want to do which option I want to follow.
Super convenient.
Yeah. So let's see. So I think so here this is my IDE telling me that these might be nulls. Again, I have some AI tools. This is actually Cursor, another AI IDE, and it's giving me some hint that these values might be null. So it's giving me a hint or a warning. I don't know if I don't think these are errors because we ran the test and lit. And so
Yeah.
this is one thing that I'm prodding the Goose agent to like try and fix that.
I've heard about Cursor. I still haven't tried it out myself yet. Let me get on it.
So yeah, and right now it's taking that knowledge, and now it'll probably we'll see it make the code change. There we go. So I think, yeah, see if it was null, then if it was non-null, it would do that. I think if it was null, then it would set that value and so on. So and those IDE warnings or errors are gone away.
Yeah.
And it's told you what it's done.
Yay.
Yeah, so let's move forward. Okay, so again, I want to verify this by starting, starting the UI. Yes, in some local host or some dev environment. I don't know how to do that, so I'm opening the README and trying to see. But I mostly just told it to look at the README, and in the README, I see everything else is test related. But there's one thing which I don't know if it's the UI, but maybe I'll hint it. Maybe Storybook is the utility. So just an option, some more context. And it'll figure out. It's now looking for Storybook related files. See, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like you have config files for Storybook and so on. So it's looking at those files, and it'll probably confirm, okay, I see several story files, and I see configuration, and now it'll like try to run that however it can. Oh, there we go. This will start Storybook on this localhost.
I can't begin to imagine how long it would take you to try and figure everything out on your own without tools like this.
Yeah, it would have taken multiple days. I think even for a front-end engineer who's new to the repo, would have taken multiple days, and so forth. So now you can probably see me trying out the UI. I've never seen this before, so I'm just poking around and seeing how I can see some of the expected buttons. I only know of the buttons that our team needed. Okay, there. So finally something showed up, and there was some error. Now, this is one of the things which at the time Goose didn't have ability to do. So because this is not in the shell, it's not on a local file, it is in the UI. it doesn't know that this is failing or something's going wrong. So for the rest of that session, I kind of just pasted these errors to Goose. Recently, I've even started taking an entire screenshot and pasting it in the local file system, and then giving it that location, saying, "Hey, this is the error I'm seeing." I've seen success with that also. I think in the future, I think Goose is coming out maybe with new features where you can maybe just upload a screenshot, and I think that would be super useful.
Yeah, that's going to be possible with Goose UI.
Yeah. So now I'll share actually the other verification.
Want to share the same way with the screen?
Yeah, the same way. Yeah.
When you put it, I'll add it.
There we go. So later on in the session, I kept trying, and it did finally work. And now you can see that these are the buttons I was looking for. They seemed familiar, and now clicking on them shows us this. This also, when I clicked on the buttons, I saw this UI, but I didn't make visual changes. I made something. I was emitting metrics. So I asked Goose, how do I verify that? And it told me, open up Chrome DevTools. You can see I'm not a front-end developer. I had to ask that. But I knew what that was finally. And so it gave me that hint. And now you can see every time I click on the button, we see the metrics go forward. And that's the verification I needed. And that was the proof I needed to just send the pull request to the reviewing team.
How many minutes was the video? I'm curious how long this all took you.
The previous video was 9 minutes something long. Wow. And then, like I said, towards the end, I still took a few more minutes to set up the UI. But again, without me making any changes, it did that. Yeah.
That's crazy. So like 15, 20 minutes, and you were able to get it done. That's really cool.
That is,
I love that. And thank you for being so like detailed with going through it and like pointing out things that like issues you ran into and things that you're hoping will come out in the 1.0. So that was really cool too. And I'm sure super informative for the audience to go along that journey with you and actually hear your thought process when you were going through it.
Do you think there's anything that could have been, available or present to make this even faster? Because I think this was pretty cool. Like for the first time, not even a front-end engineer being able to do this. It's already amazing. Probably saved a couple of days already. But I was also curious if I wish I had this. One example is the uploading screenshots, definitely. So like something else?
I think the ability to reference files using some shortcuts instead of typing out the entire file location. In some of the IDE tools, like in Cursor, you can just do the @ symbol, and then it'll start off auto completion, and you just type in the file name or the first few characters of the file name, and it also knows some of your context, like what files are open or what files are in the current working directory, and it'll paste that for you. So that was one tedious way, because when I had to refer to multiple files, it got I still could do with just the file name and the extension, but if I'm uploading screenshots and whatnot, then I had to look at the entire file because it was in a different folder and so on. Yeah.
Right. I was gonna add that the times I've had to do that, I just told you like, oh, check out this file under this folder. So I don't even type out the full part. It just does the RG thing and gets the file from me.
Yeah, maybe with screenshots, because the file name is like super
very
long.
Similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally date time. All
that sounds amazing.
Yeah. I had some learnings from this also. I think so while Goose was figuring out the local server and it was fixing the state, it added quite a few lines of unnecessary code, which I didn't realize that it was unnecessary, when it's trying to fix the configs and so on. And so that's what the PR reviewers asked me to remove. And so I think maybe then what I did was told the Goose hints that in the future, only add the necessary changes and so forth. One more thing that I don't think it's really Goose that needs to solve it, but once it's made some changes, then then I move forward and it makes more changes, but then I need to go back to the previous state because this new path wasn't right. I think you can solve this by just like committing your local code to your branch and so on. But if there was a way to undo, like an undo button, it goes back, that would be nice. And also sometimes it's working through and it's still responding and so on, but you're like, no, this is the wrong path or something. So instead of right now, you can just cancel out of that prompt. But if I could also keep typing, no, don't look at that, look at this. But I think that's a broader industry LLM. Right now, you can't stop LLMs midway from thinking. They think they're too smart.
But those are like very good, user experience feedback as well. Just trying to make things easier for those using it. Definitely
some of the other things, the code wasn't consistent with existing code, some of it, and that's another thing that the PR reviewers asked me. So again, I added instructions in the hints file for the future. I got a bunch of comments in the PR. None of them were critical or fatal, but they were maybe styling related or maybe a little bit refactoring. And because I hadn't written any line of code, I was uncomfortable with that. So the other trick I learned from my teammate was Goose has a GitHub toolkit. And so I just asked, hey, use the GitHub toolkit, look at this PR, and I posted the entire link. And I said, just fix the comments as you see fit. And it just did that. And so that felt weird. That felt weird because at this point, I'm not doing any software engineering or any coding.
Like moderating and like selling, like monitoring it. Wait, so when Goose made those changes, were they happy with the PR changes once Goose took over and did that?
Yes, it still took a couple of more iterations, and again, like I said, Goose was always trying to add more code than was necessary. But I don't think it took more than 2 or 3 iterations. I think it was fairly. And I did give the team a warning. They knew about Goose, and I gave them like a disclaimer. Hey, this is written by Goose, so just bear with me. But they were happy, and so the final result was we merged the code in, and we saw it working live without any bugs, any issues, which was pretty cool because my team was expecting this to be live in multiple months after we got some front-end engineer and so forth.
Yeah, that's a huge time save. And also talking about like the fine-tuning part, I think it's just like a key part with the prompting that we said, and also like improving the Goose hints to just cover the unique preferences per project. And trying to like tailor Goose to do exactly what you want using those tools. But it's nice to see like in action and learning and iterating and also keep customizing it to your need. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and I love that you utilized the Goose hints and you were just updating that as it went on too. That'll make it good for like future people when they're using that repo. And then Roselle actually hinted that with V1.0, we can kind of stop it midway when it's like going through like the prompts and you just like, okay, you're going in the wrong direction. So once I play around with that, we'll know for sure.
That'll be great.
Cool.
That's good.
Let's see. I guess we can end with like maybe a fun question, or if anybody in the audience has any questions, feel free to add them in now and we'll talk it over. I didn't actually prepare a fun question, so now I have to think for a second.
I mean, there's always a fun question that if you have a superpower, what would it be? So that never goes wrong.
Okay, let's do it. Okay.
I can go first. If anybody has seen the movie Jumper, where the person is instantly able to transport himself to any and teleport based on a picture that he sees and so forth. So I would love that. And I work at Block and we have a great remote policy, so I would love to work from different countries and so forth. Yeah, maybe not sitting on top of the mountain working on it, but somewhere close.
Nice. That is brilliant. Tanya asks, what would you want to use Goose to do next? I think that's a brilliant question.
That's a good question.
Sure. So I did use Goose after that. I added 2 more front-end features. I resized the layout of some of the window. I changed the visual elements of the button. So like small changes like that. And it worked. And this time it actually picked the correct standardized UI elements. It told me I'm looking at material UI and there's already some, some images or icons that I can use.
Yeah.
See, that stuff I wouldn't have known. I would have just Googled it, found something, and added there. But because it knew the code base, it sort of quickly scanned the files. So that's what I already used it for. I've also used it for writing some documentation or specs. And what I found is it's great for researching different frameworks and tools. So what I do is I paste links to entire GitHub repos or the website for a tool. And it does all the research and gives me in bullet points, like these are the pros and cons. And I think that's what you want. You want something to start off with. If you let it write the entire doc also, it'll do it. But then now it's a lot. There is some fluff to it because it is picking stuff from the website and so on. So that's where you have to see, okay, what's relevant to my team or the project. Humans are still needed. So
can I say? Sorry, Ebony. I was gonna say, can I say, does this make you feel like confident to jump into like literally any field or like area that might need your help to get something done, even though you might not be very experienced in it?
It does. I have a side project and I've done the backend for it, but I don't know how to do the front end. But because of some tools like this, including others, I think I can at least have a starting point. I don't have to go Google out myself, and then the top well-performing SEO websites or ads will direct me to do a certain way. But now I can kind of just ask it questions on what framework should I use and how to start off and so forth. So it definitely gives me confidence, but it also gives me confidence in the current. If I was working in a repo that the language I knew or the logic I knew, then it's faster because these days I literally just say, hey, find the bug in this code. I've done PR reviews for teams where instead of while I'm reviewing it, I also start off Goose in the background saying, hey, review this and tell me what's wrong. And it'll find a lot of things, but then I have to like rephrase and say, okay, tell me the biggest things. What might be the logic errors or what might not be tested and so forth. Because it is a computer, it's going to probably try to find issues like, oh, if the internet cuts off, then this won't work. So things like that.
That's brilliant.
I love that. On so many different use cases. And that was a really good question, Ace. Like, how comfortable do you feel jumping into other things? So hopefully you do use Goose for your side project and we can hear about it maybe on the next live stream in the future. But okay, Ace, tell us your superpower.
Oh, myself. I think Tanya already kind of like made sure I didn't say teleportation. So I'll probably say speed. Like just being able to do things like that would
I feel like that's literally
because that would also come with super thinking. So I can read books like I'm done, look at something I'm done, process it fast, do things. Yeah, I can live with that.
I think that's also from a superhero movie. I haven't seen it, but I think it's
I think Flash does that.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like that's like big with our society now. We all want everything to be done quickly, and that's also why AI agents are amazing because it's like I don't have to read. It can just give me bullet points of what's going on with this new tool, and now I'm an expert in it. But okay, my superpower, I think it would be like mind reading. I think I'd want to know because I'm pretty nosy. I feel like that's my like go-to one. I want to know what you guys are thinking about. And then I have a 2-year-old and he always has a look of like something like just danger. And I'm like, what are you about to do that's dangerous? If I could just read it, I could stop it ahead of time. No more ER visits and all that. So that would be something that I'd want to do. Understanding all languages. I will definitely stay out of your head, Tanya. Sometimes. But okay, thank you so much, Arjan. This was really great, super detailed. I love all the feedback you gave us. And you also gave us hints on different use cases that you've used as well. So hopefully that's inspired the audience to try out those different use cases. And now you can say you're a front-end engineer. with a little sidekick. With a sidekick. And we'll call Goose your
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for being here. Ace, any closing remarks before I close this out?
Oh yeah, just thanks again to everyone in chat. Thank you everyone for stopping by. Thank you, Arjan, for doing this, and also Ebony. lovely co-host. If you want to get started with Goose, check out github.com/blog/Goose, and you can start using Goose right away.
Yes. Let's let this marinate here for like 2 seconds.
And you can join our Discord too if you have any questions, share your use cases, share your feedback or any questions you might have as well.
And hopefully we see you on our next live stream. Bye, guys.